The laughter came first, sharp, scattered, uncertain. A silver fork clattered onto porcelain. Someone whispered, "She owns what?" But that was later. A moment before, red sauce had streaked across the floor like spilled paint, and the waiter's words hung in the air, "Down there is where you belong." Grace Monroe didn't move. Her blazer stayed immaculate, her chin slightly lifted as if she hadn't just been told to kneel among spaghetti. Around her, phones rose, catching fragments, a woman frozen, a waiter smirking, a room waiting for her shame. Yet something about her silence unsettled them. They didn't know the papers in her bag, or the card tucked in her wallet. They only saw stillness. He saw weakness. And that was the mistake. By the time the manager rushed over, the scene was already fractured into pieces. A child at the next table asked loudly, "Why is she on the floor?" though Grace had never moved from her chair. The smear of pasta remained between polished shoes, a stain that seemed to accuse the whole room. The waiter leaned close, lowering his voice just enough to sound intimate, yet cruel. "A suit doesn't make you equal. People notice." His grin widened as if daring her to rise. Grace's hand hovered above her lap, steady except for the faint tremor in her ring finger. A guest across the room filmed, whispering, "She's not going to fight back." Every eye measured her silence, the weight of centuries of expectation pressing onto her shoulders. The manager's attempt at authority sputtered. "Let's keep moving, folks, nothing to see here." But the crowd didn't budge. They wanted resolution, some spectacle to post. Grace finally spoke, her voice smooth but clipped. "Funny thing about restaurants, ownership doesn't always sit where you expect." A ripple ran through the tables, some brows knitting in confusion. The waiter's smirk faltered, but only for a beat. "Stop pretending. You think anyone here believes you?" His words cut, but a different kind of anticipation had already taken hold in the room. The crowd didn't breathe when Grace stood. She didn't shout, didn't fling the plate back. Instead, she reached into her blazer and set a single black card on the linen. The embossed seal caught the chandelier light, recognizable to anyone who'd read the Michelin Guide. Gasps darted across the room like sparks leaping dry wood. A woman near the wall whispered, "She's the inspector." The waiter staggered back half a step, his smirk draining into a tight jaw. Grace's eyes never left his. "You wanted me on the floor. But tell me, how will your review read tomorrow when every critic knows this dining room failed before the appetizer?" Phones tilted higher, lenses glowing red dots. The manager's throat clicked as he tried to swallow, realizing too late that this wasn't a scene to be managed, it was a reckoning. A silence heavy enough to bow the chandeliers filled the space. Grace pressed the card flat with her palm, her voice sharpened like glass. "Service is more than food. It's respect." The waiter opened his mouth, but no sound came. The power he thought he owned had evaporated, and everyone could see it. The room shifted. Conversations broke apart into guilty coughs, the scrape of chairs, and the hurried closing of camera apps. The manager bowed so low his tie brushed the tablecloth, stammering apologies that sounded like excuses. Grace didn't glance at him. Her gaze pinned the waiter, who now looked smaller than the stain he had created. From the entrance, a new voice cut through, "Grace Monroe." Heads turned. A tall man in a tailored suit stepped forward, one of the hotel chain's senior shareholders. His eyes flicked from Grace to the trembling staff. Recognition bloomed, followed swiftly by dread. "She isn't just dining here. She owns here." The words rolled across the dining room, louder than any shout. Forks paused midair, guests froze mid-step. Grace allowed herself the faintest smile, then gathered her napkin, dropping it gently over the mess on the floor. "The review will write itself," she murmured, rising. The balance of the room tilted with her, dignity restored, shame redistributed. No one moved as Grace walked toward the door. The click of her heels was louder than the hushed room, each step a verdict. The waiter stood rigid, pale, his hands twisted in the apron he once wore like armor. Cameras caught him, not her. At the threshold, Grace paused, glancing back only once. Respect isn't optional. It's the price of admission. Her words landed harder than any slammed door. She left the card on the table, its black surface gleaming under the chandelier, a reminder of who had truly been tested tonight. The room remained frozen, diners trapped between shame and awe. Outside, the night air was cool, free of judgment. Grace inhaled deeply, her dignity intact, and kept walking. The silence behind her told the rest of the story. True strength isn't always in raising your voice but in holding your ground with dignity, because respect is the foundation of every human exchange and the absence of it eventually unmasks those who misuse their power. Grace's story reminds us to carry that lesson into our own lives, treating others with fairness and never underestimating quiet resolve. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and joining us for more stories that matter.